Yeah. Okay. Here you go. Here's.
I have so much to say about Carlin. Let's do it.
Okay. Here's 30 seconds of George Carlin. Here we go.
Okay.
You know you can stick it. Well, why do we always assume everyone knows where they can stick it? Suppose you don't know. Suppose you're a new guy. You have absolutely no idea where to stick it. I think there ought to be a government booklet entitled Where to Stick It. But I believe there is a government booklet like that. They sent it to you on April 15th.
Classic George Carlin. What do you think?
Okay, I will tell you, I know what the title is, and let's see if I'm right. I'm going to guess.
Okay.
This is how much of a George Carlin fan I am. That is off of his HBO special. I wanted to say it was Back in Town.
Yep.
And the bit is called Free Floating Hostility.
Maybe on the album it is. For the YouTube title, it's called Everyday Expressions, and in parentheses, that don't make sense. So, yes, you got it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's really good.
Well, he was going into, because that was his thing. He was going into expressions like, piece of cake, expressions like, take the cake. Where do you take a cake? With the other effing cake,
Yeah, he had another one. I'll see if I can find it. It was lock him up and throw away the key. Let's see. And then,
that's the one. It's all.
No,
That's what
will fucking kill you.
this is some cussing on here,
This is
everybody.
really
Listen.
stupid.
Here we go.
Where are you going to throw the key? Right out in front of jail?
Here you go.
Lock him up and throw away the key. This is really stupid. Where are you going to throw the key? Right out in front of jail? His friends will find it. How far can you throw a key? 50, 60 feet the most. Even if you lay it flat on its side like that and you scale it, what do you get? An extra 10 feet tops. This is a stupid idea. Needs to be completely rethought.
Classic. He takes the everyday things, objects, words, behaviors, and he points out the absurdity. I love it. He's the funniest educator. He's like you take a university class every time I sit through one of his bits.
I think George Carlin and a lot of people you met from, not even that necessarily was just a comedian. He was just a modern day philosopher. That was his thing about comedy. He was so outside the box with his humor. I mean, he just not only he made fun of sayings and expressions, he got you to think and got you to see things from a perspective that maybe you have that perspective, but even if you don't know you have that perspective, it's like he reminds you of that, and you go, yeah, I thought that, but then he takes it to another level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, that's it. Points it out, makes you say makes you realize what you're actually saying and doing, and then when you're laughing, when you think about it, you're laughing at your own behavior and your own participation in the ridiculous world we live in, which is really a comedy stage for George Carlin.
It's the irony. That's what good comedy is. Irony, and it's the absurdity of a reflection on human behavior. That's what Carlin was famous for doing.
Yeah, I'm impressed by this also, that he took on every part of the society, all the nuts and bolts, every cog, every gear turning, every key, everything that had to do with getting society to work and operate. He took it all apart, broke it apart, blew it up. You got to see the schematics, see it from the inside out. And he could make a joke out of anything, a car tire, a stop sign, saying please and thank you.
Well, I would say that if we had a Mount Rushmore of comedians, he definitely would be on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, agreed. I think that.
I know he'd be. I'd have to think about who the other three would be. I think Rodney would be one of them too.
Yeah. I picked out the ones on the list for tonight. I think that's a good starting place for anyone to go on that, the Hall of Fame or of the greats. And these are the ones that we, as they say, we stand on their shoulders when we perform. When we have an audience, we're able to do and say the things we do in many ways, it's appreciated more and understood more and accepted more because, and to a greater extent, because of people like George Carlin. And also, I was thinking Joan Rivers too. I didn't have a chance to look at any of hers for the show, but she was a really fantastic comedian too.
I just watched a thing on her on Netflix. She is like George Carlin's sister, I would say, because she's does a lot of the absurd behavior humor, the cynical perspective, and it's funny. And she, in some ways, I mean, I'm not comparing who's funny or whatever, but she's as good as Carlin because I didn't see as many bits quite as he had because, see, with Carlin, when I first started watching comedians on HBO back in about 2000, gosh, this must have been 2001, because I remember his first HBO special that I watched, Carlin. I watched him a little bit here and there in the 90s, and I was familiar with him, but I didn't really watch him. And the first time I saw George on HBO is when I saw his bit. It was called Complaints and Grievances, and it was right after 9/11, and he was making the joke about how we should get, fat guys who drink beer and eat bratwurst to fart in tunnels to go after Bin Laden.
That sounds like
9/11 is horrible, but we have to talk about it. It's the elephant in the room, and we have to talk about it. And he was able to make the painful situation funny, and then he did. He was supposed to do, and I listening to Joe Rogan's podcast a lot too. He's a great comedian. I met him at the Comedy Store. But anyway, he was supposed to do a bit about how he likes destruction and death, because he can do some very dark stuff, but that's Carlin's style. But they had to take some of the stuff out that he was going to do on that special. But if you look it up, he says, I like when there's hurricanes, tornadoes, and da-da-da-da-da, and a lot of people dying, and like the things he was saying, I mean, it was dark, but it was just from Carlin's perspective. But if you listen to, I saw him in 2004 at a casino, one of the casinos. Can't remember where it was. It might have actually been a Trump casino, believe it or not.
Yeah, probably, no doubt. Trump probably has a casino in every town.
I was listening to him, and he was doing that bit because it was a few years after 9/11, but he kind of had a little bit of. He admitted at that point, shortly after that routine, that he had a drug problem and he got sober, and because he kind of lost it, and he said he felt bad because he was cussing at an audience member, and he said, "I can't be doing this, I can't."
I don't know anything about that part of it. We're talking about George Carlin said that he had an addiction issue or addicted to something.
Well, he had it over years. He kind of got over it, and then he just got into kind of like smoking pot a lot. And the pot wasn't so bad, but then he said, when he would do that, he would drink, and then he was taking pills with the drinking, and he said, I had to get off of it. And then he died a few years shortly after that.
Yeah, this is in... Well, the one that's posted here from that album that you cited correctly, Back in Town, it's posted at 2014. I don't know when that album came out, but I'm going to open it up and look.
That one came out in the late 90s. I think it was 1997, if I'm not mistaken. I remember looking at the year because in that year he was talking about the baby boom phenomenon, and he says he was going this thing about the boomers and. They went from counting grams on drugs, now they're counting fat grams,
Yeah.
And then, in the Life Worth Losing bit, where he talked about suicide a lot, I mean, it was dark, but he did this thing about, how people kill themselves. But if you really listen to what he's saying, he said, it's an absurd idea to want to kill yourself. He's like, why would you want to, kill yourself and no, here's my dead corpse. This is what you fucking did to me,
Yeah. He's got a way of saying what is in front of you, and if you don't like it, then you put the thing down that you have in your hand that he's pointing out. It's kind of what he does, I think, his comedy.
Yeah, I'll admit it's probably not for everybody because I try to show people's comedy, and some love it and some hate it. Because when he started off, he wasn't as dark and twisted with his humor, but then he kind of got in the rebellious stage in the 70s because a lot was going on with, about the Vietnam War, and it kind of started the hippie generation of comedy. But what's funny and what I love about George Carlin is I watched the evolution of Carlin Carlin, and a lot of my own behaviors are like him. Like, there's a part of me that's a conservative person, but then there's a part of me that's a real liberal. But he talks about how, it's getting really bad when the liberal colleges are the ones you got to watch what you say. Because I think there was a point where it was more like a platform to go to colleges for free speech. But the irony is, it's kind of gone the other way. It's like, you can't say this because this is fat shaming, or you can't say this because this person might get offended. And it's the irony of it is, and which wanted to lead me to my next thing, is like, I used to think the churches were kind of a place where, you can't say that in church, but now I'm watching a lot of comedians, and I'm like, they can almost get away with more in church than they can at some of those places, because things have changed. There's been a change on what you can and can't say.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, what you can, because there are rules, and then there are the unspoken rules, and the unspoken rules there are some things you can and can't say, and that's kind of where George Carlin came into my awareness when I was a kid, because he had that, I think it was an HBO special, 7 words you're not allowed to say on TV.
Oh yeah, that was, and about how he went to the Supreme Court with that. I think, and if I'm not mistaken, was there a Supreme Court case on that?
I don't know. What else do you know on that? I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, look it up, because I know he went to courts to fight that, because it was a lot of that going on, and that's why Lenny Bruce, if I'm not mistaken, he influenced Carlin a lot, and I think Lenny Bruce was a lot into law, right? Because he wanted to fight for to advocate free speech, and that's what, and you could do a whole argument on who's more into censoring, the right wing or the left wing of the spectrum, but I look at it from, speaking of wings, I don't know if I'd say bird's eye view, but I'm looking at it from a perspective of, it's the irony is the right wing and the left wing can be the same bird. It's like, let's not limit what people can say, but let's look at the motive of what they're saying and why they're saying it, whether or not it's good or bad. Obviously, Michael Richards calling people racial slurs, the Laugh Factory took it too far, right?
Oh, I was thinking about that tonight. Totally, absolutely, yes. Bad choice on his part.
If you look at it from a perspective of, how could have he gone away with handling that situation different? And you can make a gay joke, but if you're bashing on all gay people, that's not. In my case, I wouldn't do it. But I'm saying if you make a joke like, let's say I were to say, here's the joke about, gay guys, a lot of people are homophobic, they don't want a gay person hitting on them. But I always make a joke of, I'm so insecure sometimes, if a gay guy gives me a compliment, I might take that as a good thing,
Yes, I would. In fact, sometimes
I'm not bashing on people who are gay because I have gay friends. I'm just making the point that everybody has a little bit of everything. It's like you can't, and we can laugh at that because I'm not saying they're gross or disgusting. I'm just saying that, I'm not giving my religion about people should not be gay or whatever. I don't care what they do. But the point I'm making is I want a compliment. I don't care where.
Yeah. Tell me about it. And I feel sometimes a little disappointed if I have gone to, I guess I would call them gay hangout bars or whatever, because I as well have friends.
Hit on you, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, how come I told my wife, how come nobody hit on me? I'm insulted. I'm going back. And
there you go. And you want to ask them if they're attractive, and then you want to find out if they're really attractive or not.
Yes, because I happen to feel that, why wouldn't any gay man want to get with me? And why am I not being hit on? Yeah, but that's the way I look at it too.
Get away with it, and when I do, I have a whole transgender rant, and I'm not putting trans people down. I'm saying, there are all these different names, and it's like, how do I know what to say to not offend somebody? Can I say this? Can I say that? Or I can't say this, or I can't say that. It's about the language. That's what the joke is. When I do those jokes, I'm making fun of the words and the language behind it, not the person's preference, not how the person is. And that's when I think you can be funny about it, as long as you're not mean.
I happen to agree with you, and I acknowledge, as well as you probably, that there are some that happen to not agree with what you just said, and I would say to that, hey, to each their own. They would find their own audience. Obviously, maybe their comedy presented in the way that, say, it was mean intentionally. It was designed to be mean. It was designed to insult in a hurtful way. Fine, I don't have a problem with that either, because I think sometimes you got to be mean to some people. I mean, that's how they won World War II, right? They had to be mean to a whole group of people for about 4 or 8 or 10 years.
Right.
And that's that's what war is.
Internment camps were going too far. Although this is something you could make a joke about it, but it's like dropping the atomic bomb wasn't so bad, but internment camps were bad. It's like wiping over 100,000 people off the face of the earth wasn't such a bad thing, but putting them in camps, that's bad. It's like
yeah, you could really do a lot with it. There's a lot of mileage in that one. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of humor.
But how far do you make it? I mean, I think it's the motive of. We had to be mean to win a war, not because we wanted to kill people, but because you don't want anybody taking over the world. But
yeah. War is always right for comedy.
Well, and I'm not necessarily the historian expert. I know enough, but there's a lot I don't know. But what's right and wrong, and I'm not going to judge what's right and wrong. God will judge the universe, whatever you want to call it. That will be the judge of what's wrong and right. What I see as wrong and right is somebody doing something without a purpose behind it. So it's like, you can defend yourself, but if you're just going to hurt somebody, that's not right. And if you're just going to be up there and be a dickhead and be mean, that's not cool. But if you have a point behind what you're saying, and it's funny, by all means, if the audience likes it, they're the judge, of what's funny. But then again, it's an individual basis too. Everybody sees things from a different perspective. Everybody.
Yeah, and let me go on a I don't want to call it a rant, because I don't even know if I'm good at that. But let me go up on a little bit right here and say something that I've been thinking about all day, anticipating how we might look at some of these various comics, and knowing that because I identify myself as a Christian comedian, you identify yourself as a Christian in the sense of, I am a Christian mainly because I was raised as a Christian. And maybe if I was raised by some...
Is that your gender identity, Christian comedian? Is that your...
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I told somebody the other day, because I'm a Christian, that makes me black automatically. Yeah, because number one, because that Obama's black and he's Jesus. He's like Jesus. But the thing is... Well, in
a lot of ways, he was. The fact that Obama was very much, whether you agree with him or not, to me that's irrelevant. He was, I would say him and Reagan were the best as far as having eloquent speaking. I'm not even looking at their politics, but they were very, very persuasive in their